Welcome everyone to Retro Game Treasure Tuesday, and as always we'll be using our highly advanced grading system to see just how good this month's box really is. Starting off, we got another keychain. I'm actually pretty sure I have this one somewhere, so let's get right to the first game. Let's check out Asterix on the Sega Genesis. This game has potential, but also a lot of issues. I'm vaguely familiar with this series. I believe it started off as a comic strip or something, I don't know, who cares. Anyway, it's a platformer, which I'm always down for. You can pick between two different characters from the series. Couldn't tell you their names, but again, who cares. The graphics are colorful, but lack a bit of detail. I will say I was definitely getting some Chuck Rock 2 kind of vibes, which was a game I loved growing up. Even the sound effect of hitting enemies felt very reminiscent. Well, surprise, surprise, it's the same developer. However, I will say Chuck Rock 2 is a significantly better game. I guess you have to walk before you can crawl. You know, since you play as a baby. Shut up. Actually, apparently both Asterix and Chuck Rock 2 were released in Europe around the same time in 1993, and while Chuck Rock 2 was also released in America in 1993, Asterix came out a year later in the States. I feel like they could have polished it up, but what do I know? Anyway, enough with the history lesson. Like I said, it's a platformer. You can jump and even punch with one of the greatest reaches I've seen in any video game. You can also throw bombs. Your objective is to get to the end of the stage before the time runs out. Pretty typical. Stage 1 was pretty simple overall. However, Stage 2 already started to cause frustration because I couldn't figure out how the hell to make it to this platform. I tried every button combination imaginable just to see if there was some sort of super secret special jump, but nothing. Eventually, I looked up a YouTube video and found out you can swap between items. How the hell did we survive before the internet? Also, does anyone remember when the internet was, you know, fun?
You've got mail.
I got mail! What's on the old Facebook feed today? The third stage really made me mad though. For one, you're underwater, which is always fun. Two, it's really hard to make out what can hurt you and what doesn't. I couldn't even see these spikes on the ceiling due to the seaweed in the foreground blocking your view. Also, there's falling pillars that you can barely tell which ones will fall and which ones won't. I kept dying over and over again in this stage. Well, until I remembered you can punch enemies. Yeah, for some reason I assumed punching underwater would be ineffective. I often forget that I grew up in the 90s before, you know, logic was invented. The last stage I played, I ended up quitting out of frustration. You end up at this wall that I assumed you can throw bombs at to destroy. Thankfully I was right. I needed 3 bombs, which I had. However, I miscalculated one of my throws, which left me 1 bomb short, and there was no way to go back in the stage and get more. So the timer ran out, and I died. I can't say I had a bad time with this game though. I feel that once you figure out the quirkiness, there's some fun to be had. I don't know. I'm gonna give this game a C. Next up, we got Orb 3D on the NES. This game was kinda confusing. So at first I thought I was just playing Pong by myself. You bounce this orb back and forth that also orbits back and forth. That's a terrible description. You know what, just use your eyes. However, you can also control how it orbits, so to speak, which allows you to hit these bubbles that are floating randomly in space. I'm assuming the goal is to pop them all. You do deplete fuel gradually as you play, which is indicated on the side of the screen. However, if you miss the orb, you deplete even more fuel. Once I figured it out, it was kinda fun. Eventually the game kinda reminded me of Breakout though, and by that I mean I couldn't hit the last damn bubble to save my life. Anyway, I lost and I didn't really have the energy to continue. It's okay, I guess. I'll give it a C. Last up, we got Robo Warrior, also on the NES. I made pretty much no progress in this game. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. It's kinda like Bomberman, in a way. You play as a robot who was apparently modeled after a Game Gear as your batteries deplete like there's no tomorrow. Also, if you take damage from enemies, you lose additional energy. Anyway, you can blow up trees and other obstacles in your way to make a path through the stage. You may even find energy refills or other power-ups, which I think are randomly generated, but don't quote me on that. Not only will bombs clear obstacles, but they can also kill enemies. You can also shoot enemies as well with your gun. Be careful though, much like Bomberman, your bombs can harm you as well. Which is not at all the reason why I didn't make much, if any, progress. I don't have a solid opinion on this game, but it is the most fun I had with this box. I wish I had had more time to play it at the time of filming, but I could see myself coming back to this one. I might regret it when I come back to it, but I'm gonna give it a B. Anyway guys, that gives us an average score of C. Aren't you glad that not much changes on this channel? Thanks again for watching guys, you know what to do, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you again next time.